first time joining in with us at Build Your Brand, I'd like to first thank my sponsor, Restream.io. In fact, if you are interested, check them out here. Now, today I have a super, super special guest and friend of mine, Alan. Alan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. You have all these fun, colorful background, and so I'm a little jealous. But I got my banana, so I'll try and keep up. So my name is Alan, and I had a career for a long time as a venture-backed startup CEO, and then along the way, I wrote a book called The Creative Curve, which is sort of a look into the art and science of creativity and how it works. And then as of today, I just launched a podcast that is called Creative Hotline, which is a call and advice show about creativity. So, so have some fun projects going on.
What I love the most about you, Alan, is you're so on brand. And I don't say that for a lot of people because I myself am a little bit all over the place, but ironically, being creatively all over the place is on brand for me.
We'll take it. That's perfect.
So I'm going to take it. But what I love about you is you are focused on creativity. A lot of people look towards you to thinking about creativity in a really interesting and different way. So not necessarily just what are you making, but how can we think strategically about creativity? How can we break creativity down into interesting analytical parts and pieces? With that being said, I'd love to hear about this new podcast that literally launched today. So I'm so excited we got to do our live stream today together too.
Yes, the podcast is basically this idea that I've been thinking about for a while. I'm doing with my friend Shane Snow, who is an author of a lot of books around sort of productivity, teamwork, and human behavior. And I always thought with podcasts that it's interesting that there isn't more advice shows. Like it's one of the most popular formats on traditional radio. I think they're really fun. I love like Delilah and Car Talk and all these things. And so the idea was like bring that format to podcasts and with a different topic, which is creativity. So it's a call and advice show. So we take calls from the listeners. Every episode has a different theme. So like the first episode, the theme is technology versus humanity. Will AI crush creativity? I think episode 3 is about drugs, depression, and their interrelationship with creativity. So like it gets heavy. And so it's going to be fun. It's a little bit silly. There's like Drake references and Taylor Swift references. So, it'll be fun.
So you said you have 3 episodes already ready to go?
Yeah. I mean, technically I'm supposed to pretend that we record them each week, but we pre-recorded 3. So
amazing. So I am so excited to hear this. So where can people go to find this?
I just drank from an empty glass, by the way. I was just like, there's nothing.
Is that the thing? You're just like doing the motions on camera.
Yeah, so the show is anywhere you can get podcasts or creativehotlineshow.com, but Apple, Spotify, Google, Anchor, whatever you want to listen to, like it's there.
Awesome. Amazing. So what are you hoping that people will call in? What kind of questions are you hoping you're going to get next in some of your future episodes? If you can share that with us.
So we've gotten a bunch of questions around sort of the role of the audience and the role of the market in creativity, which I think is interesting. So this idea of like, do you create for an audience or do you create for yourself? And what's that tension? And is there a clear answer one way or the other? And so that's going to be I think we're going to do an episode on that, which I think will be really fun.
That's super, super cool. Okay, well, great. I am so excited. I have to definitely listen to this podcast, but I haven't yet because it's day. It is day.
Today, yeah.
It's today. It just launched. Well, Alan, let's get a little bit into how you've built your own personal brand. So let's talk. Why did you want to focus specifically around the idea of creativity?
Yeah, so I, for a long time, ran this company called Track Maven. That was a data company. I worked with a lot of big marketers. So we worked with the NBA, GE, Honda, Aetna, like a lot of big companies. And what was really interesting is when you actually looked at their data and you looked at what content was resonating, what stories were resonating with customers, you found there's a lot of patterns to it. And there's a lot of insights that you could glean. And so I got really fascinated with this idea that this thing that we think of as sort of magical and far out, that is creativity, is actually something that you can learn and study and get better at. And so I got really fascinated with this sort of mythology around creativity. So much of it's wrong, right? We have all these notions of creativity as this like complicated thing that only a few of us can actually access. And so I just got kind of like pissed off about it. And I was just like, this is not how it really works, people. And so that was really the origin for the interest. And then it started with a speech that I started giving at conferences, and people really resonate with the speech. And I got excited about the message and excited about the potential to talk more about it, and sort of snowballed in like a series of fortunate events into a book. And yeah, so I've now been researching and talking about it for 5 years. Which is kind of crazy.
This is so nuts to think that it's been 5 years that you started that. And when did you publish your book, Alan?
The book came out in 2018. So I started writing it in 2015, and it took me a while because I had a busy job.
It feels like it just came out last year. Oh my gosh, time is just flying past us at this point.
It's all happening. We're getting old. Oh my God.
Oh gosh. Well, all right, already there. No. Oh my gosh. I definitely want to talk about the fact that you grew your audience on several different platforms, which is also really interesting. And now you're drinking out of a glass with water. Which is definitely a step up.
Thank God.
So one of the things I think is interesting is, of course, we met during, I would call the LinkedIn phase of that personal brand building, but you also build your brand on other platforms. Can you tell us about some of the other places where you're growing your personal brand?
Yeah, so I had been creating content on the internet since 2012. I used to write a column for Fast Company, and before that, The Next Web, which for a while had a lot of reach. And I had always done stuff, and like some stuff would work and resonate, but nothing really took off until I started doing LinkedIn video. I think it was back in like 2017, and they had just launched video. And I think anytime there's a new platform and or a new format on a platform, there's like a weird supply and demand imbalance where there's a lot more demand for content than supply. And you can pretty quickly build a large audience. You're seeing this on Clubhouse right now, which is why I think people are trying to spend so much energy on it, because there's an opportunity to build an audience and people sort of sense that and get that. And so, anyway, so I started doing LinkedIn. Got pretty serious about it, was doing these short video interviews that are about 60 seconds. People love them. I think now cumulatively they got over 5 million views. Like people really are into them. And it was cool. At the time it was unique. It was different. There wasn't other people doing it. Now there's a lot of people doing it. But at the time it was something new and fresh. And so my LinkedIn audience sort of grew over the years. Now it's about like 155,000 followers. And then what I found is sort of that spills over into other channels. And so, my Twitter's getting progressively bigger, my Facebook's gotten progressively bigger, my Instagram's gotten progressively bigger, my newsletter's gotten progressively bigger. And so that sort of idea, though, I thought was really interesting, of like, I finally started clicking in terms of a personal brand when I really focus on one channel. Yes. And then the other channels sort of flow because of that.
So that is such a great place to start, which is literally focus, right? Focus on one platform. And in fact, it wasn't even just one platform that you focus on. It was one platform and one type of content on that platform.
Totally. And that's, I think, so important because obviously I think with a lot of people, they view they see influencers that have all these mature channels. And in reality, if you look at any of them, they almost all started with one. Like there's a lot of sort of more consumer influencers that started like on YouTube. And if you look, they might have, 1 million Instagram followers, they have 6 million on YouTube. And so you can see that sort of origin story. And so I think that's really important, even though I think it can feel a little restrictive when you're doing it. Like you want to be doing all these things, but like you have to just like take a breath.
Yeah, you have to stick with it, right? I do think you have to be consistent. So I remember when I was starting to do videos on LinkedIn, and I think I was maybe in 200 videos in or so. And I met somebody for coffee and they were like, great, so I want to just release 3 videos. Will I get the same results as you? And I'm like, maybe, honestly, because you never know, right? You never know what will happen. But what is more helpful is if you commit to making content consistently over a period of time. That way your audience is familiar with you. They can come to expect content from you. I just think it's so much better than hoping that, say, one of your 3 pieces of content, as magical as they are, will suddenly hit.
Totally. And this is why, like with the podcast, like, I've talked to people about doing podcasts for literally like 6 years and finally wanted to do one, but it was like long after I'd done LinkedIn, long after it sort of built up an audience already that I can start to sort of bring with me. And so I just think that's you're hitting on the nail on the head, the nose on the, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Whatever that is. Yeah.
Whatever that is. Yeah. No, I think it's so helpful if you want to try a new platform or a new type of content. It helps to already be established on one platform. But of course, if you're just starting out, start with one and grow from there. And I'm so glad you brought up Clubhouse. It's not my personal favorite form of communication, but it is a really great space to grow an audience right now. So if that's what you're looking to do, there's certainly people who are looking to follow content. And there's a lot of what I call lurkers, right? People who are there to consume the content, but they might actually not want to be content creators themselves. So these people are great for building an audience.
Totally. Yeah. And I think Clubhouse is so interesting, right? Because I think, there's pros and cons to every platform. And I think Clubhouse obviously has hit upon something really unique, and the platform's sort of maturing and growing and figuring itself out. But all of that means that it's an ideal sort of time to do stuff and try stuff. And you're seeing people experiment with ideas about like game shows on Clubhouse and like things like that I think are really cool. And so I think
I love like there's ASMR rooms on Clubhouse. There's shoot your shot
rooms. Shoot your shot is so funny.
It's so funny to me. I had to show this to somebody that is not on Clubhouse, and I'm ironically not on Clubhouse, but my friends send me this stuff all the time. And they're like, come to this midnight shoot your shot room. And I'm like, I'm okay.
Yeah, what's going on? Yeah,
what's going on? But so hilarious and such interesting use cases of audio, because Clubhouse, for those of you that don't know and are listening in on this, Clubhouse is 100% audio. There's no visuals whatsoever tied to it. So it's a very interesting place to be. And that brings up, of course, where I am currently starting to grow my audience, which is Twitter Spaces, which is the Clubhouse competitor on Twitter.
How do you get Twitter Spaces? I want Twitter Spaces. It seems so cool.
I am going to send you the form that you can apply.
Oh my God. You know all the answers to everything.
I can't believe you're not already on Twitter Spaces.
I would be obsessed with it.
I think you would be literally perfect, because you are doing a podcast.
Affirmation is my love language, so I'll take it.
Well, Alan, you are wonderful. I'm so glad we could do this.
I'm firing my therapist. This is great.
But yes, so Twitter Spaces I think is super interesting because it's still in beta. But what I love about it is that, like Alan, I already have an audience on Twitter. So it to me makes even more sense that I can do Twitter Spaces to further grow that existing audience, instead of necessarily starting from scratch in Clubhouse. Although I will say it is relatively easy to scale on Clubhouse right now if you're interested in the platform. Yeah,
for sure.
But it is definitely very interesting to be in a beta program on a site that you already use.
Are you finding with Twitter Spaces that you're getting audience growth too, or is it engaging with existing people, or how has that experience been?
I think it's been, flip the interview. It's been about half and half. So I have talked about my two current loves, which Al and I were talking about right before this live chat, which is NFTs. And I haven't mentioned this, but Alan, I'm sure you're familiar, Dispo, right?
Yeah.
So I am obsessed with both of these platforms.
We should follow each other on Dispo. I'm on Dispo. Why aren't we following each other?
I think I already follow you, but
okay. Then I'm sure I follow you back.
I'm going to hunt you down, though. I'm sure you're at Alan on Dispo.
Yeah, I'm sure you're at Goldie. So
I am definitely at Goldie. So these are the two places where I'm super interested in right now. So those are the two Twitter Spaces that I've hosted. What's so fun is when I hosted the NFT one, I got in all these new NFT artists following me. And, folks who are interested in getting into NFTs, or they're more on the building side of it. So they're more on the technical side, which is super interesting to meet new people. And then when I did the Dispo one, it was Dispo users who happened to be on Twitter and weren't following me yet. So that's
cool.
It's Twitter. So that's Twitter Spaces is an interesting way to grow your Twitter following, literally.
Very cool. I'm learning this thing new every day.
I feel like we are all learning something new every single day, Alan.
Cool.
Always the case, right? So what are you, I mean, those are the two things I'm excited about. What are you excited about right now?
Oh, interesting. I mean, I've also been, I think the NFT thing is interesting. Obviously, it's, I think, going to be a lot like Bitcoin, where there's like crazy ups and downs and volatility for a while. And I think for most people, it's not going to be worth the emotional stress to do it. But I think that's sort of some of the long-term potential there is like really cool and really interesting. And the ideas of like new ways that people can release things. And I tweeted the other day about how I think it'd be interesting to see how authors use it. I think you responded. And there was like, I think there's a lot of interesting ideas people had around like you could do sort of NFT audiobooks, you could do NFT ebooks, you could do sort of like accompanying collectibles with books. But like, the thing with authors, for example, is like, a book maybe sells for $28 and a royalty on a book might be literally, depending on how it's sold, 40 cents to $4 is a very wide range. It's a long story. And then if that book is resold, then that you don't participate in that. So you have sort of a low royalty, plus there's no participation in sort of the used book market. And then NFTs was kind of crazy, is like you can set them up where like the publishers or the authors, every time the ebook is resold can have 10% of that, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's like interesting because this idea of, you think about art and creativity as also something that's very intertwined with capitalism, then I think any way that you could provide more value to the original creator, you're going to see more and better art in whatever form that is. And so I think that's really exciting. So yeah, I'd agree with NFTs for sure.
And I definitely want to explain something really quickly for folks who are tuning in and maybe not as familiar with NFTs. So one of the interesting things is on these different marketplaces and platforms where you can sell an NFT, the original creator is always shown. So even if that piece, that audiobook, that piece of art is constantly resold, the original creator stays in place. So it's nice that there's always that attribution. But also, as the original creator, you can set the amount of percentage of profit you will always make from every sale. So what Alan is talking about, if a book resells on secondary market, you don't get a slice of that, most likely. But if a piece of art resells on the NFT marketplace, you do get a percentage of that. And that is really powerful for literally fiscally giving back to creators.
Yeah, and I think anyone should be excited about the idea of sort of more value being captured by creators, because it literally just means you're going to get more content and better content because people are going to have more time, more ability. They're not going to have to work second jobs. And usually these are ways that they're capturing that value, not from the consumer, but from middlemen, right? And, it's like you think about, eBay, takes, 10% when a book is sold. Wouldn't it be better if a book is sold on a marketplace and the fee is de minimis, but 10% goes to the creator, right? That value isn't being taken from the consumer. It's being taken from these existing middlemen who are already sort of rent seeking and taking value. And so I think that's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. So is there anything else besides NFTs that you think is sort of the future that we should be looking at besides Top Shot?
I think there's a lot of interesting things that are coming our way. I mean, I think that you mentioned some of the ones that I've been mentioning recently. I mean, I think Clubhouse is going to be here to stay for better and for worse. I'm really interested in sort of like the post-COVID era, like what that looked like. My sort of current bet is sort of the roaring 20s. I think people are going to pop off. I think people are going to travel. They're going to dance all the time. We're going to festivals. And so I think there's going to be an interesting moment where you're going to see a lot of people who maybe left cities or that kind of thing feel a lot of FOMO. And I think there's going to be people who sort of permanently sort of unplug or permanently say, like, I'm going to live in maybe a smaller city or suburb and I'm going to remote work into work. And I think a lot of people, though, are going to come back. I think a lot of people are going to feel FOMO. I think there's going to be a lot of energy in cities. And so I think the fact that cities might have become more affordable during this means that a lot of cities are going to get younger. You might see more, like I think about New York, there's sort of a phoenix rising from the ashes story in progress where, retail rents are way down. And New York has traditionally been a place where it's very hard for young chefs to start. And so instead they go to cities like Philadelphia and Boston and DC. And so a lot of those chefs are going to be able to afford to open restaurants in New York now. And so I think that there's a lot of unknowns about sort of the post-COVID era, but no matter what, it's going to be very exciting and interesting. And then here's a random one for you. I think like I'm obsessed with the fact that Art Deco is coming back. Like I have my house is, you can't see it in my office. My house is sort of decorated Art Deco. And like,
oh my gosh,
I just think like mid-century modern has had its day, and like Art Deco's here, it's back. And so that's the random design trend that I think is going to be.
You mean no more pink walls?
No more pink walls. I think 5 years from now, I think like the West Elms of the world are going to be full of Art Deco, and mid-century modern will be sort of behind us. So that's my random.
Everyone, you heard it here first. Go out and buy Art Deco art and also Art Deco furniture.
Yeah.
Get in on this Art Deco trend before it
becomes
becomes
Art Deco NFT someone can buy. You know?
Now, well, I'm positive an Art Deco NFT already exists.
I'm positive there is too.
Oh my gosh. So we have covered a lot of ground here. Everything from talking about your amazing new podcast to your book to talking about trends with NFT and art in general, and also authors and the way authors are really thinking about how to get their books out there. In fact, I think it's really interesting to be an author right now because you can't do a traditional book tour either, right? So yeah, I guess Clubhouse is the traditional book tour now.
I'm glad I'm not marketing a book right now because I mean, it seems like I love doing in-person events. But yeah, what I'm seeing from my author friends is like very heavy on the Zooms, very heavy on things like Clubhouse, virtual events, finding online communities and sort of joining and participating. And I think that's going to be a part of book marketing forever, right? Because that makes a lot of sense. That should stay. People should have been doing that before. But I think most authors will tell you like there's something really important when marketing a book to do the in-person interaction, building that excitement, especially because those events often people take pictures and post on social media and build sort of the word of mouth around a book. And so that's all, we're missing.
You just have that beautifully spiral when you have that picture that exists and then you have a signed book and then you have all these other things. Yeah.
And you can't really do like people do TV, but it's much harder to do TV. Like, news, television shows are more selective in who they bring on right now because it's just a lot more difficult. You can't just get in the studio. So most authors I know are like very excited for COVID to be over. Everyone is like,
I think everyone is, and that feels like a really good place to end this stream. Thank you again, Alan, for jumping on and chatting. And everyone, once again, go find Alan's podcast. In fact, Alan, where can people find you on the internet?
Yes, so I am at Allen, ALLEN.xyz, and the show is at creativehotlineshow.com. There's links, but you can find it wherever you get your podcasts.
Beautiful. Thank you again, Alan, and we'll talk to you again, I assume, in a year. Bye, everyone. Bye,